we're learning about another case of Americans now missing in Mexico. Authorities say 3 women living in Texas crossed into Mexico on February 24th to sell clothes at a flea market. Family members say they have not heard from Marina Perez Rios, her sister Martiza, or Dora Alicia Cervantes Sayens, and they're concerned about their safety. The FBI is now investigating, and this comes just days after members of a Mexican cartel allegedly kidnapped 4 Americans, killing 2 of them. Due to the ongoing threat of violence in Mexico, the Texas Department of Public Safety is warning against traveling to Mexico during spring break. In a statement, Texas DPS Director Stephen McCraw says, quote, "Drug cartel violence and other criminal activity represent a significant safety threat to anyone who crosses into Mexico right now. We have a duty to inform the public about safety, travel risks, and threats. Based on the volatile nature of cartel activity and the violence we are seeing there, we are urging individuals to avoid travel to Mexico at this time."